Hey, good evening. Kathy Beatty here with Divorce Support Anonymous. Thank you for joining me this evening. It is Friday night, and I try most Friday nights to jump into your life and give you some help, some hope, some encouragement, and some tools and techniques as you go through the trauma of divorce. Tonight, we're going to talk about some real practical things, 5 things that you need to know about working through and with an attorney. Oh, I see the one of the titles up there is 5 things to know going through divorce. That was going to be, but then I switched it over to going through divorce. Maybe I'll do that next week. I want you to be prepared as you go through this because most of you have never been in this territory before. It is a new world, it is a complicated world. And that's why I like to help guide people through it, to let you know that you're going to make it and you're going to be okay. You are going to be okay. It's so important for you to know that because I know many of you don't feel that. So we'll talk tonight about working with your attorney and how important that is. And if you heed my advice, you will save literally thousands of dollars. So it's important to know how to work with an attorney. Before we jump into that, I do want to speak to March 25th, Building Your Life After Divorce, an 8-week group session that is going to help you really take inventory, take assessment of where you are, and then determine how to create and build a new life. Trying to get rid of this right there. So, yeah, because once you're through my 10-week group, a lot of people think like, phew, okay. But now what? Now what? And not to say everything gets worked out in 10 weeks. Oh, how I wish it did. But as you get through this and you go through the process, you get to the end of it, or seemingly the end of it, it continues much further. And then you think, well, now what? How do I live? What do I do? How do I create a new life? And that is one of the exciting things that I love to work with people on because it's a big world out there. And there's so much potential of what your life can be and what you can do. And you need to know that. And you need to intentionally take the time to work on that. And that's what we do for 8 weeks. We're together. It's hybrid. So if you're in the Grand Rapids area, you can come be in person. If not, we'll do hybrid. So if you are finished with your divorce, because quite honestly, if you're in the middle of your divorce, you can't see anything but the divorce. But if you are finished with your divorce, or maybe you've been divorced for a few years and still not quite able to manage building a future and moving forward, this is the group for you. I love doing it because we work for 8 weeks and then we create a new life declaration. And during the final week, we each stand and give our new life declaration. And it is quite profound, emotional, and it's beautiful. It's really beautiful to watch. So it's one of the favorite things that I do in the work that I do. But we're going to talk now about working with the attorney, working with my attorney. What do I need to know? What do I need to know? Because attorneys are not cheap. And so for you to be really intentional on how you use your attorney is literally going to save you a lot of money, which I would much rather see you put in your college 529 plan for your children or to start your new life with. Now, attorneys are necessary most of the time, although I do mediations and some people do it themselves. But for most, it's not recommended because they have too much of an enmeshed life and too complicated, but it is possible. So here's number one, what I want you to start with, and not number one of the 5, but number one for you to know. This is a workbook that I created. And this workbook is going to prepare you and help you for seeing your attorney. Is going to get all of your documents together. So, for example, some people say, "Oh, I'm going through a divorce." They panic, they jump into an attorney's office. The attorney's going to spend the first hour at least with you hearing the story. You're going to tell the story. You're going to need to tell the story. And there's 1 hour at least. And then you're going to spend another hour about all the documents that you need to get together and all the things that you need to do. Better yet, if you walk into an attorney's office and say, "I have all the documents, all the paper that work that we need. Now let's get to work." You have just saved yourself a whole lot of time and money. So I want to encourage you to get the workbook if you are in the beginning stages. If you're well into the process, probably won't help you unless you're going into mediation, and then it's going to help you doing that as well. Okay, my 5 points. Here we go. Your attorney is not your therapist, your financial expert, or your spiritual advisor. They may have a lot of information about that. And most of them do, many of them do. I've worked with some really wonderful attorneys. With some other attorneys, not so much, not so great. But for you to know that this is the person who is your legal expert is very important, because your therapist isn't $350 an hour. Your financial person isn't $350 an hour. Your spiritual advisor is not $350 an hour or more. So understand that this is your expert in the law. That's going to help you be more efficient with your attorney. Number 2, you need to be your own advocate. You are going to have to stand up for yourself. You are going to have to know what it is that you want, and you're going to have to be an advocate for yourself. And for many of you, in fact, it's one of my favorite / least favorite questions to ask. How good are you at standing up for yourselves? And 99%, 99.5 will say, "I'm not very good at standing up for myself." You have got to learn to stand up for yourself, not only through this divorce, but life as a single person. You are going to need to be your own advocate, and you've got to start learning it. And there's no time like the present. And there is also this understanding, too, as we are dealing with our soon to be former spouse, that we have to do this mind shift that this is no longer a safe person that we are dealing with. And that's hard. That's really difficult, because you have been with decades with this person and they have been safe, and you have shared intimately, your finances, your life, the children, your bodies. You have been intimate. You've been one with this person. And now they're no longer safe. But sadly, you have to do that as being an advocate for yourself and realizing that they are no longer safe. And therefore, I am going to be the one. I have to be the one to stand up for myself. There are things that you can do yourself. Again, let's go back to this workbook right here. It's going to prepare you. You can file for divorce by yourself on your own. You can get all of the paperwork. You can make determinations of the financial. Now, I'm not saying don't use the experts, because you need the experts, but there are those things that you can do for yourself. And if you need some more information on that, let me know. Because the more you can do for yourself, not only are you learning more that you're going to need in your single life, you are also going to know more as you go through the process. So it won't be as foreign to you. Attorneys charge for every email, text, and phone call. So be aware of that, because it can get very, very expensive. Let me introduce you to the concept of a divorce coach. That is someone who, I'm a divorce coach along with a mediator and also a facilitator for group. A divorce coach is not going to give you legal advice, but they are going to help you manage how you use your attorney. And they are going to explain the process. You may have seen this on my Facebook page or my website. A divorce coach is your go-to person on divorce. They're more accessible and cost much less than your attorney. Divorce coaches don't give legal advice. but they do give you advice on questions to ask the attorney or what to expect from the attorney. We talk about the experience that you're going through, but also the process itself, what to expect, what I should ask, what's realistic, what's possible. Attorneys are $400 to $500 an hour. Divorce coaches are minimal in comparison. Again, I'm not going to give you legal advice because I'm not an attorney, but I can give you most of the information you need for the process. I can work with you emotionally, legally, spiritually, and what to confirm with your attorney. So it's really a shortcut, if you will. It's a way to get that information, the real information that you need for this process, and also helping you deal with your emotions and the spiritual issues if they are a Christian, as I am. Gratefully, I can make that claim. So they're going to work with you. I'm going to work with you and just give you the guidance that you need. And then you go to your attorney. And then you have the questions to ask your attorney. So again, you're not spending as much time in the attorney's office. So there are those things that you can do for yourself. Attorneys charge for every email and text, and they work for you. Remember, they don't have to live with the decisions through this divorce. You do. And there are sometimes and some attorneys that want to take over and dictate how you're supposed to think, how you're supposed to act, what you're supposed to do. And granted, you're in trauma and you're not thinking clearly at this point. But I just want you to be aware that what you settle for in mediation, your attorney doesn't have to live with. And you're the one who's calling the shots. And sometimes people forget that. And attorneys forget that too. So I just want you to know that you are the person who's in charge here, and you need to keep that in mind. So let me run through these real quick. Your attorney's not your therapist, financial expert, spiritual advisor. They may very well have all that information, but they are not the ones who are going to help you work through the nitty-gritty. And plus, financial people, spiritual advisors, and therapists are much cheaper. You need to be your own advocate. Stand up for yourself. Girlfriend, guy friend, you've got to learn this skill. Got to learn to negotiate. You'll need it for the rest of your life. There are things that you can do yourself. Don't have everyone do everything for you. I know it's tempting, but you've got to figure this out. You've got to do your work in this. Attorneys are going to charge you for every email, text, and phone call. They work for you. And keep in mind, you are the one who has to live with the decisions that are made going through this divorce. You are the one who knows what's important to fight for, what's not important to fight for. So wisdom, the book of wisdom, Proverbs, the book of Psalms. I always say Psalms understands. The book of Proverbs, wisdom, where wisdom is, of course, throughout the scriptures as well, but especially God gave us this little book to help us to learn wisdom. For wisdom will enter your heart and acknowledge you and fill you with joy. Wise choices will watch over you. Understanding will keep you safe. That's a great proverb. And then this one I use frequently. If any of you lack wisdom, and we all do in this area because we've never been here before, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. And one more. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. We need to be so wise as we go through this process. So wise. And the only one who really holds all the wisdom is God. So I encourage you, as you go through this process, it is as much spiritual as it is legal and financial. Don't leave the spiritual part out of this, because it is such a valuable and very important, very, very important process. So March 25th, Building Your Life After Divorce, 8 weeks. Join me. You will receive these 2 books, and we'll work in the workbook, and we'll go 8 weeks, and you will love this process. I do, people have gone through it, really, really have been helped just to get the focus of where you're going after divorce. Hope this has been of help. If I can be of help, give me a phone call or connect with me, and I'd be more than happy to speak with you. I give my first hour at no charge, maybe all you need. This workbook is a free download. All you have to do is request it. I will need your email address because it's too large of a file to send through messaging, but those resources are available to you. So I hope this has been of help and given you a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of tools and techniques as you go through the trauma of divorce. This is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous, walking with you every step of the way through the trauma of divorce and after divorce. Have a good evening.